All right, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to COVID and the Reopening Landscape, Options and Opportunities. This webinar is presented by BMO. My name is Samantha, and I'll be moderating today's presentation. This Q&A is the second discussion in a multi-part series exploring the impact of the novel coronavirus on small businesses across Canada. In this presentation, our speaker will address finance questions submitted by you relating to different options and opportunities available at this time. And just as a note to everybody who's attending today, all of your mics are muted. That said, if you have any questions for us as we get started, any difficulties, please post them in the chat feature and we'll do our best to help you out. Also, we encourage you to submit questions for our presenter in the Q&A forum so that we can answer all the pressing questions that you've got. Today's presentation is being recorded so we can provide you all with the material afterwards. So before I introduce our speaker today, let's get a sense of who's here, as our attendees are primarily small business owners, but we're catering to a few different sectors. So we've got a poll question coming up. What best describes your business? Construction, jewelry retail, signs and signage, franchising, animal health, pool and spa, or something else altogether? I'll just give you a minute to answer that one. Okay, so we've got about half construction here today. That's great. And a few sign professionals as well, and a jewelry retailer, and somebody else as well. So that's great. Okay, so before I hand things over to Joseph, who will take things, sorry, I missed that. I'd like to introduce our presenter, Joseph Pisani. He is the National Director of Franchising Services with the Bank of Montreal. And he's here to answer all of your pressing finance questions, drawing on more than 20 years experience in business banking. He also holds a position as a small business entrepreneur. So before I toss things over to Joseph, let's catch the tone of the room a bit with another poll question. That would pop up. Regarding COVID's impact on your business, how are you feeling at this time? Are you optimistic, pessimistic, or feeling a bit neutral? This is good. Most of the room is feeling neutral at this time. So let's kick things over to Joseph. And Joseph, how are you feeling about the state of small businesses and finance right now?
I have to say, thank you very much for the introduction and welcome everybody. I have to say that I originally, during the COVID uptick, I was in the pessimistic category. And as the months have been progressing along, the numbers we see in Canada have been improving. I'm moving from a pessimistic into a neutralist and getting optimistic. I see a lot of the small businesses really look at innovating their sales formats and figuring out how they can best serve their customers going forward. So my gradual movement is from the bottom, and I'm moving up towards the top, and I think it's a good news. Talking to many small businesses, I've noticed that they too are in that neutral state right now, and I think that neutral state has to do more with the unknown, the uncertainty, and hopefully they can move out of that itself. What's interesting to see and to hear from small businesses is that they want to serve their clientele, their customers, and they are trying to figure out the different ways. Some of the innovative things that I've heard is that they were actually asking the customers how they want to be serviced instead of assuming that they know best. I've dealt with many different businesses, many different styles of businesses. The group that I actually work in is an industry group, so we deal with both. We deal from the trade contractors to the healthcare sector. franchising to the not-for-profit. So you speak to all your colleagues and you listen to what they're saying and what they're hearing. Of course, everyone's had to move online, except for the construction and the trade contractors, of course. Although they were affected, they were not as impacted as those who would have a storefront type of operation, and that includes both the dentist and the healthcare sector as well as the franchise sector as well. So it's very interesting that I see a lot of neutrality there, which is a good thing because you don't want to be too comfortable in what's happening. You always want to be thinking about what you're going to be doing on the next stages of what's going on in the pandemic. And as we see the numbers start to continue to decline and stay within below those magic numbers across Canada, it gives a little bit more sense of confidence, which is a good thing and is a bad thing, because with confidence comes people putting their guard down, which can then lead to a second surge. On that.
All right. Thanks so much for that overview. Now I will get into our questions. So regarding finances, how can I get the bank to look at my business beyond the COVID effect right now?
For what I would ask that anybody looking to take a look at their financing and look at new financing or anything like that, I would, first off, you should know who your banker is, who your relationship manager is across any bank in the country. Reach out to them. Have a good, long conversation. At this time right now, it's not going to be any different than when you first started off your business, in the sense that now you are looking at expanding your horizons in a sense of what you're going to be doing going forward. Now, pre-COVID, things were humming along, hopefully for you as well. If that's the case, then you need to showcase how that humming along it has continued during the COVID lockdown, coming out of the COVID lockdown. If you're struggling before COVID, you're going to be struggling during COVID. All the banks are going to be looking at you with a different set of eyes. So you need to prove to them that you have a plan and what you're going to do with that plan. Every bank will have the same questions and will have expectations that the business owner is going to step up as much as they can as well. I hear, well, how can I step up? I'm in dire straits. Well, just as you started your business with what you needed to step up, but this is at that point the same thing. What are you going to do to help this business come along? And then the bank will step in as well.
And this one it relates to office space. I have an office and I employ 7 people. We're all working from home. I'm still paying the rent, and I don't need such a big office. What's the best way to get out of it?
You're going to need to talk to your landlord first and foremost. Have a good conversation with them, because they're going to be in a bit of a bind themselves. They don't want to lose tenants. It all depends on your lease agreement. How far and how deep are you tied into it? Are you able to sublease? Perhaps you could take a portion of that office space and sublease the rest of it. You're going to need to have a good real estate lawyer that takes a look at your lease and will be able to question you as to how you go about in doing your business going forward. Landlords are in a tough bind. I know they're always given the bad rap right now that they're not doing anything, but you have to understand they are in the same bind as you are. Their clients, you, the tenant, are not paying them any rent, are trying to get out of their rent. They have mortgages. They have commitments to banks as well. So speaking with your landlord is going to be the first step you have. Reviewing your lease at the same time, maybe with a professional, a lawyer or a real estate agent, is the other thing you're going to need to do. But that is one of the things that you need to take a look at and talk to people about, because your bank, when you go looking for your financing or anything like that, they're going to ask about your expenses. And that's an expense that you're not needing right now.
Right. And likewise, when it comes to going back to the office, when transitioning staff from CERB back to employment, what should business owners know at this point? Like, due to cutbacks or restricted operational hours, the wages the staff might be receiving might be less than what they'd be earning through CERB. So what are the incentives for individuals to return to work at this time?
It's a very difficult scenario, and many business owners I've already spoken with regards to this. And trying to get their employees back to work is not the easiest thing to do at this point. You have the different factors, and then you've named one of them, and that is that they're getting more money on the CERB than they would being employed. That, as well as the fear content. Everyone is afraid. The media has done a great job of putting a lot of fear into the general public, and rightfully so, because in the beginning it was a very highly unknown factor that was coming into place. Mm-hmm. Again, this is going to be a look at your expenses, because the only way to get employees now is to pay them a decent wage that incentivizes them to come into work versus staying as a CERB. There are many employment lawyers right now that are dictating that you can't let people go during this time, and that if you are going to let them go, you need to look at all the provisions behind that. Looking at a small business in this time would be, if I were in those shoes, I'd be looking at hiring new employees. I'd put out the offer to my existing employees. The door is open for you to come back, but you can't force them back. But at the same time, you need to continue running your business. And looking for new employees may be a good start, because for yourself and for those employees that don't have jobs right now or don't have CERB to back them, they're willing and hungry to come and work for you. If you can give them an attractive offer, you may be attracting talent that you didn't know you could, and which would then help you in your business going forward after the CERB, after the COVID effect subsides.
Right. And how many staff members do you need to, or should you bring back at this time?
So this is a sales mentality. If you look at a fast food, quick serve type of restaurant who runs a takeout delivery service and a drive-through window, from my understanding, from a crew of anywhere from 20 to 40 individuals, they've cut that down to 50%. And the reasoning behind that is that they only need a kitchen crew and a crew that works the drive-through area. So you're going to have to look at your staffing, and you're going to have to look at the amount of business that comes in. Your staff is usually the number one expense on one of your biggest expenses on your variable income statement. So take a look at what they have, what they are offering you, and perhaps this is a time to be selective of which staff also comes in and willing to come in. You may have that Joe that's not that receptive in coming in, really was only putting in 80%, not giving you the full 100%. But there's Samantha, great smile, always willing to work, always willing to help out. You bring her in, and she's giving you that 110%. But remember, the staff that you bring in, by incentivizing them elsewhere, other ways, you're going to get more than that 100%, and you're going to get the right staff in. And this is the time to also look at your staffing. If you're able to produce the same type of sales or very close to the sales with the type of staff that you have, maybe it's time to relook at all your configuration and your staffing.
And when it comes to PPE in the workplace, for buying it, is this something paid for by the business owner? Are there funding programs available, do you know of, or through the government or through banks? Or, I mean, in the case of franchises, is it covered by the franchise system?
So unfortunately, these are covered by the business owner. This isn't a business expense, no different than any of your cleaning solutions, no maintenance solutions or anything like that. I can't recall, but I thought there were some some kind of programs that the Ontario government, I don't know about the other provinces, they said that they had put on for distribution of their PPE manufacturers. But like anything else, folks, you're going to have to do a good job of sourcing your PPE that you require. In the franchising networks, some of the franchisors have been able to obtain a substantial amount of PPE, lowering the cost for you. But that doesn't mean that, I mean, with a franchisee or a healthcare professional in the construction industry, there are many avenues, especially in the last couple of months, that companies just producing so much of it. You may be able to get better pricing on your own if you just do your own research on it. It's just incredible that the amount of manufacturing that has taken place in the last couple of months, when the call went out that we need hand sanitizer, disinfectants, masks, and so forth, the amount of companies that were able to pivot in their own business and switch it to help and create a business that's different than what they were doing before. So the cost will be up to your own pocketbook on this one here. And again, that's going to be something you need to take into account when you're speaking as well to your banker of what the extra costs are of opening up.
Right. And regarding this the second wave that everybody's kind of hinting at, and a lot of people feel is inevitable, who knows? What type of provisions should employers and business owners have in place financially, PPE-wise, and everything like that? What would you say they have to have in place to be prepared for this coming situation?
And I agree. I think it will be inevitable that we have a second wave. How strong and how big that second wave is all going to be dependent on how the individuals in our country act amongst themselves. I mean, the physical distancing and the wearing of a mask, the washing of your hands, that's all part and parcel, not just for the COVID, but also for the standard flus out there. Prior to COVID and the pandemic, businesses should have been prepared for that rainy day. We just didn't know that rainy day would turn into 6 months. But that is the gist of it all. 6 months preparedness is what it takes. Now, everyone is saying, yes, but I just spent my 6 months in what I had these last 6 months. I don't have what I need going forward. How do I now get that back? It's a tough question, and the tough answer is that there's going to be a lot of businesses that will not make it going through the second wave. They will not be prepared to go into the second wave. Every day that we have now before the second wave is your day to start preparing to keep you going. I wish I can say that you need 6 months, but you may even need more. I wish that I could say to you that your customers are going to return, but we know the way that customers feel nowadays. Their sentiment about this COVID is not as high and optimistic as many people would love them to be. Believe it or not, the warm weather and the sun shining brings more business to everybody. This is where my neutrality comes into place. Will people be prepared for the second wave? And I don't believe they are. I believe if they continue doing what they're doing now, they will be more and more prepared. The PPE that you need to purchase to keep your business running today is going to be needed more so tomorrow. So you might have to do the old, I'm going to buy, instead of buying the amount that you need, you're going to buy 10% more. Your employees, make sure you're coaching them. Make sure they're happy. Make sure they understand the rules of working. It's going to be not today, we're in business today, I'm not going to think about tomorrow. We're in business today, but I got to think even more about tomorrow. And I think that's what's going to happen for the second wave. Those businesses that are thinking about tomorrow are the ones that are going to come on top of this. It's interesting because I was in contact with Ryerson University, and they actually have a program where their students are trying to get some co-op time frame. And what they put together is a small business platform where they can help small businesses move their information online, which is very important. That's part of your next wave. You got to talk to your bank. That's part of your next wave. You got to talk to your landlord. That's part of the next wave. Your suppliers, again. So everything that you've been doing today is part of the next wave. You got to be prepared for them as well.
Mm-hmm. This is sort of a more positive question. I think especially for those in the construction industry, my business is actually doing really well. So how can I engage the bank to lend me more money to operate at this time?
Absolutely. The construction industry, the landscape industry, actually the pool industry is doing phenomenal. They can't keep up. I mean, nobody was thinking about putting in a pool, but everybody who has a backyard is looking at a pool because they say, I can't go anywhere anyway. They all need money. They need money for supplies. They need money for employees. They need money. They need working capital. What I'll tell you straight out is this: you're going to need to put together your financials up to COVID. Once you've got your financials up to COVID, you're going to need to put what happened during COVID, and then what's happening past COVID. So the bank will have an opportunity to take a look at all three scenarios: before, during, and then after. Especially in the construction industry, the biggest issue for all banks on the construction industry is them getting paid. We all know that there's always delays in payments, and there's always somebody that does not want to pay. So those are the key things that you have to look at when you're talking to your bank. Showcasing what you've done, what in the past, what you're doing during the COVID, and what you're doing going forward, and how many contracts you have coming forward is a big plus when the banker takes a look at it. Now, don't forget, you are a big part of your business. So whatever you have, whatever you've done, your biggest part now is to take a look at your personal finances and make sure they're all up to date too. Because a business person who is looking at obtaining financing and has not been paying their bills personally is not somebody the banks want to participate with.
And on another kind of optimistic sort of point, have you noticed any unique buying opportunities at this time, whether they're products or businesses or anything like that? Or is that still happening at this point in time?
Well, I mean, this is a very unique time because right now everyone is just struggling to stay open. That is key right now, that they were struggling to stay open. The buying opportunities are twofold. Either you have your eye on a certain business and you approach that business owner and talk to them right now, or you're going to have your eye on a certain business and wait to see what happens with that business owner going forward. So there can be good opportunities coming up if you have your eye open and if you're able to act on that immediately. So back to cash flow. You have to have the cash flow to be able to act. Have you spoken to your banker? Have you been able to indicate to them that you're willing to grow and will need some assistance in growing? But they're going to want to make sure that you're able to grow at a good pace, profitably, and be able to maintain the existing business that you have at the same time. So when you look at opportunities for businesses to buy out, speak to the existing owners. They may want to get out. They may be at a time in their lives that they've worked in a business and this COVID may have been the last straw that they need to get out at. So it could be a good buying opportunity.
Right. And regarding increasing business and increasing sales, increasing people in the door, besides associations, who else can we speak to about getting help in this sector regarding increasing business?
So we'll span it across the way there. The number one way of getting any kind of business is asking your current clients, customers for referrals. Have them speak on your behalf. If they are a happy customer, they will voice their happiness to other people, because everybody wants to be an advocate for good business. They want to tell people, look, I've been served great. I got a great product. I got a great service from so-and-so. You should talk to them. If you look at the construction industry, they always rely on word of mouth. If you look at the pool and spa industry, they would rely on word of mouth as well as what their product looks like. So if somebody walks into somebody's home and they see a pool or a spa or whatever it is, they ask, who installed it for you? Were you happy? So the associations all help businesses, but your main focus now is your employees, to make sure they deliver a great service, great product, as well as your customers, that when they do get that product and service and they're happy with them, ask them, please don't be shy. Everyone's on social media. Post me on Instagram, post it wherever. Show that you're happy with our product. We appreciate any other referral that you can give us. Now, that being said, make sure that your website is up to date. Make sure that your marketing material is up to date. The worst thing you can do is have customers come to your website and have details of 1995 on there versus 2020. There should be an updated COVID statement on your website. This is what we're doing. We understand the COVID situation, but this is what we're doing to ensure that our customers and our employees are safe.
Well, this is sort of a big question, pretty big. What are banks prepared to do to help small businesses struggling at this time? Are there any incentives or relief or support programs that are in the works, or specific lending programs, I guess, as well?
So the banks with the federal government came out of the gate right from the beginning, and they helped with the federal government with some of the programs that they came out with. So you had to go through your bank in order to get some of these programs. The banks also then came out with what's called a BCAP program. And what they do is that they partnered up with the Business Development Bank and the Export Development of Canada. And they help with programs with small businesses. But the one crevice on this is that you have to be a client of the bank in order to apply at that bank. You cannot go to another bank in order to apply for those programs. At the same time, what you should be doing is speaking with your relationship manager to ensure that they are aware of what's happening with your business. And that means good and bad. The worst thing that can happen is that a relationship manager, an account manager, get surprised. They drive by your location and they see all the windows boarded up and so forth. What they want to know is beforehand, what are you doing to ensure your doors are open? What are you doing to collect your receivables? What are you doing to satisfy your customers? The more you explain to them, and the more you can explain to them how you're going to move forward, in that you're cutting employees down so it's bare staff that can deal with the customers, that you've talked to the landlord and cut your lease down, that you've talked to your suppliers, that you've talked. Once they understand all this and where you're going forward and what your cash flow will look in the next 12 months, they can better understand of how they can help you as well. So the banks all have these particular programs that were instilled from the get-go. It now comes down to, if you haven't applied, you should be talking to them. All the banks had a 6-month deferral on principal payments. The majority of people that needed it took it. They all came out with the CERB, the CEBA. The majority of companies that could take it took it. Now it's the planning. Now it's the planning of how you're going to keep your businesses moving along and how you're going to talk to the banks in the future.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And it looks like we've got time for one more question. It seems like a good closer as well. Not to, this is a good one to come in. In your opinion, how effective have small businesses been in terms of pivoting to the new reality? If you could collectively give us all a letter grade, what would it be?
I have to say I'm going to give them a B. And the reason why, because a lot of businesses understood right from the get-go, I can't open my doors. So what am I going to do? They realized this, they moved online. A lot of the restaurants who could not accept their patrons coming in the door, they quickly went on, did takeout food and made sure that everybody was in a distance format so they can do that. They all use third-party delivery services, which was great. I mean, the big box stores had curbside pickup, which was great. They all became instant warehousing places where they had to then now distribute. Some industries didn't even miss a beat. I mean, the first 2 weeks might have been a miss of a beat, but the rest of the time, it's just business as usual. So they didn't need to do anything. What they needed to do was just pick up their PPE and make sure that their employees were safe at all times. So I have to give them the B. They got to look at pivoting. They got to look at shifting. They got to look at reorganizing. They got to look at rebranding themselves in a new world. And the unfortunate thing is that many people will lose their jobs. The unfortunate thing is there are many businesses that will lose their businesses. But there are also some good things that come out of this. Ingenuity, innovation, they all come out. Crises tend to bring out the best of people. And I think what's happening here is that there's some new innovations coming out with people thinking outside of their, particular box. What doesn't matter which industry it is in, and they're thinking of ways of how to conduct business. And many people were hesitant in the previous how to do it. Now they're open to all ways of doing business.
Couldn't agree more. All right. Well, thanks so much, Joseph. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Thanks for shedding some light on some of the major financial concerns impacting small business owners across Canada right now. And a note to our attendees, if we weren't able to get to your question today, please submit it in the Q&A forum still. We'll forward it on to Joseph. If you're feeling a little Q&A shy, don't worry, just forward it on and Joseph is happy to address your questions. So a recording of this complete discussion will be available 1 week from now on every website that Kenilworth has, really. We'll also be sending a link to the recording via email to all of our registrants. Thanks to everyone who attended today. And before you go, please take a couple minutes to give us your feedback by completing our survey. Should appear after you close your browser in Zoom. And have a great afternoon. Stay safe. Bye, Joseph. Great talking to you.
Bye-bye, and good luck, everybody.